mankind. The Kate Daly Show starts now.
Matt Mills got into lasers as a kid.
It's just innately cool.
Now he's part of a team of scientists and military backers on the cutting edge of a new technology, making lasers powerful enough to reach up here into the sky where a thunderstorm is just about to start. In the near future, a push-button storm starter could be a real thing.
Here.
Hi there. Welcome. I'm back. Yes. Oh, boy. That was a crazy 5 days. And I was really sick. And I apologize. That just hit me like a ton of bricks. I had no voice. I sounded like The Exorcist. And a friend of mine said, it'd be a really good time to go leave messages on politicians' voicemails sounding like you do. I have to agree. Yeah, that would actually been perfect. You should have heard me. I did not sound like me at all. It was crazy town. So I so appreciate all the emails and concern and thank you and prayers and thank you so much. And I had so many wonderful guests, like the guest I have right now. Jim Lee is joining me, and I had all these wonderful guests last week, and I could not get on the air to have them on. And it really bummed me out more than anybody because I knew that these guys had something to say and something important to say. Welcome to the show, Jim Lee. How are you?
Pretty good. Want to fight about it?
Yeah, let's fight about it. I love it. I'll tell you what, that was really crazy. And I for anyone out there who gets really ill, I am so sorry. It's a terrible thing. I usually push through things really quickly, and so that really caught me off guard actually because it just lingered. Have you experienced that?
Every time I fly, I get aerotoxic syndrome.
Really?
And then, yeah, I flew out to Ed G. Edward Griffin's conference. I had 103 temperature for the 3 days I was there.
Oh my
And then
gosh.
I flew back and had pneumonia for like a month.
Oh my gosh. Wow. Okay. Well, I'll tell you what, when I travel, something's going on. So it might be that, I don't know. But when I travel, things happen. And I had just traveled the weekend before. So you never know, I guess. It's mid-October. We are looking at an election coming up here in 3 weeks. We've got all kinds of stuff to talk about, but I want to talk about your takeaways now that we're a few days out of what happened in Florida. We didn't get a chance to talk about it. You were going to come on the next day, and we didn't get a chance. And so I wanted to bring you to the audience to kind of give you a chance to say, what do you think all of that was? It was way grossly over exaggerated in the area of storm and in the area of hurricane. They kept saying it was going to be a Cat 5. Then it ended up being a Cat 1, Cat 2. And then they kept saying, but it was a Cat 3 storm. They kept changing all the lingo. What's your take, Jim Lee? ClimateViewer.com.
Both Helene and Milton were completely fabricated on the numbers. When we dug into what are called METAR, that's METAR, you can look at these ground-based weather stations from FAA sites to, all of the sites that gather this information. And the highest sustained winds on both storms were in the 50-knot range before they made landfall, which means that on the Saffir-Simpson scale, they didn't even categorize as a Category 1 hurricane.
Wow.
So every meteorologist that was, touting these numbers, they were lying through their teeth. They literally could have just rolled their lazy butts over to a computer and checked and been able to verify that.
They keep doing this over and over and over again and over exaggerate. I pulled up an article and I sent this to a friend who was in Tampa, actually one of the people that comes on this show, Chris Ann Hall. And I sent it to her, and it was an MSN article, and it said, basically, if you do not leave, you might as well just chalk yourself up to the dead. You will be dead. There is just write your name on your arm because it's over for you. You will not recover from this. I mean, we're talking drastic, overblown articles. And so over 1 million people left, right? At least. And you kind of wonder about that. And then on top of it, this gross exaggeration. Have you been seeing this too? I mean, every single one of them it's going to be a Cat 4 or Cat 5, and then it ends up being nothing like it. Over and
They
over.
were reporting 30-foot waves out to sea, and they're like, "Oh, we're going to have the biggest storm surge, ever."
Mm-hmm.
How is it different than any other mainstream media where they just overblow a story
Mm-hmm.
for the sake of fear? Because if it bleeds, it leads, and they want to, gin up this whole fear and the narrative that CO2 is
Mm-hmm.
causing all of these storms to be biblical. But wait a minute, the people who are making the CO2 narrative don't believe in the Bible, so that's kind of ironic in and of itself.
Ironic. Yeah, that is that is ironic. Now that you think about it, yeah, they're always saying it's biblical. You're right. Good catch.
Yeah, but then I look at the macro of everything. Like I would rather be right than first. So like, while everybody was out making videos on the fly, I was like, you know what? We're going to do a forensic autopsy on this after the fact.
Right.
And then I'll tell everybody how I really feel about it. Because, I had a flood, and I'm talking 35 podcast requests to come on and talk about, how they're steering and controlling the hurricanes and all this stuff. And what about the quartz mines and all this stuff? And I'm like, do you want me to come on with my Alex Jones voice, or like, do you want me to come on and tell you what I really feel?
Right.
And I think they would prefer the Alex Jones voice, because there's so many people who are profiting from these clickbait titles, from all, the fear, PRN,
right.
insert the vowel. And that's what I've seen, not just from the media, but also the infotainers online.
So what do you think is the reason for this? Is it FEMA money totally? Is it all about grabbing that FEMA money beforehand? What do you think? Or is it a distraction?
I mean, I honestly don't. I look at it like this. I mean, compare Ron DeSantis and whoever the leftist governor of North Carolina is. Compare the response, compare the readiness, and the response afterwards,
right?
And then you can draw the conclusions you need just from that. One, Dan Bongino was back on the air 2 days after the tropical storm Milton. Meanwhile, look at North Carolina. So leadership is key.
Right.
And as a person who's lived through Hurricane Hugo and several hurricanes afterwards, we know to be prepared, and we know what the worst can be. But if your governor's not there for you, it's going to be a tough row to hoe.
Yes. And you know what? I also, I was listening to his response live, and DeSantis afterwards, and he said this wasn't even the kind of cleanup. It wasn't the kind of rescue. It wasn't even close. Not even in the same ballpark as Helene. He said in Helene, we actually had a lot more, people we had to go in for. This one was nothing like that. And you could see it. People were all looking at the ground behind him. And it was really kind of a strange scene. Actually, it was like, we know that this was overblown. We know that this was hyped up. So here's the real skinny on it. And they were literally looking down at the ground while he was talking. It was just odd. It was just an odd sight.
Yeah, Cat Turd is one of the
Cat Turd.
Oh God,
Yeah,
he was just laughing all the way through it, going, "Where's the Cat 4 I was promised during Helene?"
I mean, it was insane. So there was a lot of flooding. I'll give them that. They talked about the storm. There was a storm, yes. But you were noticing all this. And when they talked about lasers, I had you on the show right before I got sick. And the show was all about the fact that the media has been saying lasers. And you're so right on something. When the media says lasers, when people are saying lasers, when you had Professor Kaku, or whatever his name is, saying lasers, then it's the exact opposite, isn't it? It's not lasers.
Of course, it's always a misdirection. And anybody who studied the history of hurricane modification understands that it all was chemical. It always has been chemical, even up to the
Interesting.
2008 Department of Homeland Security Hurricane Modification Workshop.
Mm-hmm.
Even during those discussions, the predominant, method of mitigating hurricanes to prevent the next Katrina was chemical. So when you understand the history of carbon black dust and the military's use of it, and all of the papers that have been published about mitigating or steering hurricanes using carbon black dust, then you go, well, why is everybody making noise about NEXRAD, Doppler radars, and laser beams and all this stuff?
That is interesting.
You always have to look the opposite direction and go, where's the truth?
That is so true. Of course, the phone lines are open today. Dr. Pesto will join us in the next hour. We've got the great Jim Lee with us right now. And I just wanted to say, look, call up. You can ask any questions of Jim, and I know that you're more than happy to answer them. And 888-673-1450. I'm back today. We are live. And I just wanted to give you guys an opportunity to ask Jim yourselves on questions that you may have had going through it. Everybody was hunkered down. Everybody was pretty much under the thought that we were going to get the biggest cat storm. And they were even saying Cat 6, which I don't even know if it exists. Does it exist?
It does not exist.
Okay. Okay. And so last week was some flooding. And I know that, my friend Chrisanne, I mean, she lost a room in their house. They have to remodel a room in their house. But she said, we're fine. And we stayed because we knew that they were going to do this. We knew that they were going to say it was this when it was not. So I love your fresh, just sort of, this is how it is take. Thank you for that. It's refreshing. And I feel like we're just never going to believe them again. And I really hope we don't, actually. Don't you? That we stop believing them and go right in with the lowest prediction we can go with. Yes?
I think you don't even have to worry about that for like people who live in hurricane prone areas.
Right.
Like we're some of the best meteorologists on the planet. Everybody does their own homework. They don't trust whatever is on TV anyway. So they're going to go check this stuff themselves.
I love it.
You surprised how many people in Florida probably saw the same numbers I did and we're like, those people.
We're gonna come right back. More with Jim Lee, climateviewer.com. Be right back.